Tycon Company, LLC, specializes in a wide range of construction services, which includes the removal and replacement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves in the quality of their service, but more importantly, with the quickness in which they provide those services. Their primary goal and objective is to achieve 100% customer satisfaction, and they won't settle for anything less. Their crews travel within a 100-mile radius of the Kansas City, Missouri metropolitan area, which includes cities on both sides of the Kansas and Missouri state line. Tycon Company, LLC, 4435 Prospect Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri 64130, 816-921-0473. Tycon Company, LLC, quality with quickness. Proud sponsor of Wake Up KC.
This is Quentin Lucas, speaking on behalf of KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. Make sure that you gain that knowledge listening to this station and following us on Facebook Live. KUAW, making sure our community has a voice.
You are listening to The Lene Gray Show on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom.
This is your host, Kay Brooklyn, and our wonderful co-host, Dre B. This is the Love Project Radio Show, where it's all love, all the time.
We definitely want you to tune in to the Love Project Radio Show every first and third Sunday of the month. And also the show starts at 4 p.m. So please tune in. We discuss different topics from relationships to things that are going on in the world. Again, the Love Project Radio Show at 4 p.m. on every first and third Sunday.
We'll make you laugh, we'll make you cry, and most importantly, we'll make you love.
What's happening, everybody? Jazz trumpeter Tom Jamaica Funk Brown wishing all of my KUAW fans season's greetings and the warmest Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome to it's another Tuesday. We're back here in the studio. We're back here in the air chair, KUAW Radio. You tuned in to Street Therapy. This is Street Therapy with your man Chris. CJ sitting in the air chair. Today I have a special guest. Let me fix my phone here. Today I got a special guest in the studio, man. He's new to KUAW, but definitely I want to introduce him to you guys. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Anthony Butler. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity, man, to be a part of a great show.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Listen, thank you for coming in and thank you for accepting the offer. Please excuse me for messing with this phone. So, Anthony, I'd like for you to a little bit about yourself, man. You from Kansas City and born and raised?
Yes, sir. Born and raised, T.B. Watkins housing projects when they were the big ones, the sky rises, and grew up in that area. Definitely born and raised in Kansas City. Enjoy Kansas City, love Kansas City.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's excuse me, and that's why I brought you in, man. I've been looking at you know, some of your work and stuff like that, and I noticed that you got a passion for the city. It's one thing to live here, but it's another thing to live here and make an impact here. And I think that's very important. Excuse me. I think that's very important because oftentimes when you live somewhere and you really care about people that you're around and people that you serve, and people such as our neighborhoods, which is the most affected by what we're going to talk about today. I think one of the reasons that we linked up to get together on this show was talking about crime. Talk about crime and some of the contributing factors to crime. What are some of the things that maybe we're missing? What are some of the things that we're overlooking? Are we trying to put a Band-Aid over things that really need to be, a wound that's deeper than just a Band-Aid, you know what I'm saying, to take care of it. Can you answer some of those questions, man, as far as crime and things like that in the city? You got some statistics here, but actually about your organization? Let's just jump right into your organization or whatever, so introduce people to that. So you have an organization, and can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, in 2013, started the VIP movement, Violence I Prevent. And so most of my career prior to that, I was in education, did a lot of great work in the schools, worked primarily in Kansas City public schools. And after several years, going back to the crime and violence and some of the contributing factors, year after year, kept seeing students, family, parents being directly impacted by violence, including myself as well, in terms of some of the things that went on in our neighborhood. Absolutely. And so in 2013, stepped out by faith. Thank God just for the wisdom and the insight. Wonderful wife, Sandra Butler. I got to give her some shouts on the air. But we stepped out by faith, started the VIP movement, Violence I Prevent. And through that, we addressed the underlying reasons for senseless violence in unique and innovative ways. So serve schools, churches, organizations, consulting, just anyone who has a heart to want to get to the core of the issues and get some of the things resolved in that particular way. That's what we do through providing practical, authentic services.
Nice. I mean, that's important because oftentimes is when you sit there and you see the gap between the millennials, the Gen X's or whomever, you sit there and you like sometimes people like they just don't get it, and then a lot of times and even if the Gen X and the younger generation are saying they just don't get us, you know what I'm saying? So everybody's saying they just don't get it, or whatever. So I think the breakdown in communication lies with the not willing to understand who's who. But I noticed there's a lot of things, speaking of crime, there's a lot of things that contribute to crime, and some of these things here, and man, the biggest one on the sheet here was gun violence.
Yeah.
That was what was gun violence, man? That's as of October, so this is recent.
Yeah, that's coming from KCPD, daily homicide analysis, and they just kind of break down and give data pretty much every day in terms of the latest and the trends with that. Yeah, and those underlying reasons is just when you look at someone who is definitely dealing with a lot of pain and hurt. And the core underlying reason is mismanaged hurt and pain. Right. And so when you have individuals that are going around full of pain, full of anger, full of hurt, full of poor conflict resolution skills, and they got easy access to a weapon, that leads to some of those data. And the thing that I like to bring up as well is those are the homicides, but there are far more who are being shot and not dying that are still dealing with the traumatic impact. So we have a lot of non-fatal shootings as well. But underneath it all, you have individuals, easy access to weapons, mindset full of hopelessness, and then you get into a situation and a petty argument can turn into a life lost or someone being shot. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. It's talking about really conflict resolution. And I was looking at what it says, current year-to-date homicide. Was it predominant? Contributing factor is argument.
There you go.
Arguments, and oftentimes we see argument as starting off as, you stepped on my shoe, or you shut up, or whatever the case, and it starts from this little, little incident, and this little incident that's maybe small ends up snowballing to something to where it's not even about the incident. It's more or less about the disrespect.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that too, man. When when the disrespect is added to the equation, that has a tendency to light things up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And as far as conflict resolution, you know, how does a person when they begin to act, since you've been in this for a while, man, how does a person that come down off of that? I mean, like, I guess like a high.
Yeah.
That toxic feeling of, I gotta get him, or I can't let that ride, or I'm gonna get him.
I think one of the things that are contributing is if you back it way up and starting the first institution or environment that we're exposed to is the house.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes what I do from the educational standpoint is to get some strategies in place to help parents model the proper conflict resolution while their kids are young,
right,
so that when they leave out of that house and get into those situations, it's been modeled, it's been implemented in the house.
Yeah.
And then those individuals will not necessarily just react because they have seen how their mother, their father, their grandmother, whatever the family dynamics are, their grandfather respond instead of reacting. And so what I typically do is help people at the core. This conflict is not about somebody cutting you off in traffic, right, or forgetting the cheese on your burger. It's deeper than that. And so just helping them with the core, what's really going on in the core of your being in terms of why are you angry? Why are you looking with a chip on your shoulder for somebody to look at you funny? I mean, we have had people lose lives over being mugged, people losing lives over some of the most petty type of situations.
Kicked
but
my
at the
shoe.
core,
Stepped on my shoe,
mismanaged hurt, full of anger, and just used to just reacting that way. So trying to teach individuals to respond and deal with it at the core issue is what we do, and that goes through building relationships, getting people to open up, being consistent, following up with them so that they can be comfortable,
right, sharing
what's really going on, and you getting them some help at that level.
Absolutely. The root word of relationships is to relate.
Yes.
To relate, and if you don't relate to anybody, man, it's kind of hard to put the ship on the end of it. It's kind of hard to, if I don't relate to you, man, it's like you and your friend, you say, man, you stupid, but you can call them stupid all day, but somebody else call them stupid, then there's a problem, because you guys have that relationship to where, he can get away with a little bit more than somebody else could. And I think a lot of times that's really where it lies, man, is like, sometimes anything can trigger anybody.
Yes.
And you said something about the dynamic of the parents or the dynamic of the home. That plays a big part of it, because unless you see something modeled in front of you, then you won't understand how to navigate those things. And a lot of times we got the tough man syndrome, and in fact, I'll tell a story. I got a friend of mine. He was walking around and said, I'm a thug, I'm a gangster. I said, man, who told you that? He said, man, I said, did your mama tell you that? He's like, no, mama didn't tell. He said, man, I said, who told you that? He said, man, whoever the artist was. I said, man, you ain't no thug, brother. You ain't no gangster, man. I said, words are powerful. A lot of times you use those words, and after you say those words so many times, you begin to believe that,
right,
and then you begin to live up to what the persona that you've created for yourself. And a lot of times is, when we Scripture says life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Absolutely.
So when we say those things, man, we create a whole image behind that, and whether it's false or not, we have to live up to that.
Right.
And that's where the whole disrespect is. You're not going to disrespect my false image.
Yeah.
I don't even know. What I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's good.
How do you talked about how you guys kind of go to the root and try to really resolve those things and try to bring those things out, man. What are some of the responses that you get from a lot of young people, man? Does it start off with just Just anger doesn't start off with, I understand what you're saying, brother.
Yeah, going back to that relation piece is when you initially expose what is going on in terms of if someone is dealing with anger, dealing with rejection, dealing with abandonment, some of those things that are masked and hidden, typically the response is resistance. And then after that resistance, that initial phase takes place through being relentless on my end, or people who serve in the same capacity, is you establish that relationship rooted in, I'm not going to give up on you. You be transparent, and you start sharing some things that you went through when you were younger, and then little by little, it starts to break down. And just being, VIP is a Bible-based business, so the Word of God is significant in how we handle stuff in terms of we pray and we go forward and get wisdom and discernment and insight to help somebody at that particular level. But there are times where you might not know what's going on initially, but you put yourself in a position and in a stance to let the individual know, I'm not giving up on you. I've been here. You get transparent, you collaborate with others. There are a lot of great organizations in the Kansas City area and beyond who are doing some great work, and I find great joy and satisfaction in collaborating with other people to be able to help individuals.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and in fact, going back to the relate part, I think we keep going back to that because it really is based off relate. But I've talked to young folks, man, before, and it's like, you go up and you approach them. If you approach young people respond how you respond to them. You go up to somebody and you say, hey man, y'all need to quit doing it. Then they're gonna initially give that back to you.
Yeah, escalate.
It's gonna escalate. You're not gonna get any positive response from that. But you end up talking to somebody, young brother in particular, I was talking to, and the first conversation was like, all right, man, whatever. So, and then, all right, all right, OG. I'm like, I ain't OG, but then you begin to kind of talk to him, man, and next thing you know, he be like, all right, I understand what you're saying, and that's just off relating to him and talking to him, saying that you do care. And then you said something also, man, that was pretty powerful, was the fact that you said, I ain't gonna give up on you.
That's right.
And a lot of times, man, when you don't break past that tough exterior, people like, what? Oh man, I ain't fooling with you. I don't have time for you. Then you don't break past that. And so while you're not breaking past that, you don't have a breakthrough. While you're not having that breakthrough, you're not saying, well, okay, well, I'm just give up on you. Well, they're used to that.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, they're used to people giving up on them. So it's like, okay, all right, well, all right, see you later. You know what I'm saying? Like you saying, all right, bye, they saying bye. Because they're so used to it. And by them not being used to that, we are the adults, like, when my son, my wife, like, you're the one that's got to say, he's a teenager, but say you're the one that's got to break it. You got to be the bigger person, and you do.
That's right.
You got to be the bigger person.
When you speaking, and I can't, and I'm making a home run, so from time to time I'll just warn you, I'll just start dropping some poetic bars right off the top. But I want to say this from the house standpoint,
yes,
because I know somebody is listening, and this is how we got to start looking at it from a solution standpoint.
Yeah.
When that kid comes into the world helpless, we have to literally hold their head up. We got to hold their head up figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
That little baby, we are modeling. And so when you look at it from, I have to be the bigger person, there are several times, and thank God for our kids, Brandon and Sierra, where I didn't necessarily model the best in terms of anger management. And I just, put myself in a position to be vulnerable to say I was wrong or I apologize, because it didn't warrant it. If I grew up, which I did, in a situation where you were experiencing rejection from your father, and you trying to find your identity, and then all of a sudden you're a parent at a young age, and then you got kids coming to that who didn't ask to be in that environment, and you're not necessarily got yourself in a healthy place. Typically what we do is we take it out on those closest to us, proximity wise. So our kids see a front row image of what's going on with that mismanagement of anger, lack of conflict resolution skills. And so in the house, and if they're hurt in the house, and they get to a point to where they're trying to, in a sense, find their identity, and we're not validating and approving in the house. They go outside into the neighborhood, and the neighborhood got a different message, and many times they gives them that false street cred type of thing, and then they take that into the schools, and they take it into the schools in different areas and environment, and it causes a ripple effect going the wrong direction. So we just need to back up and start to the home. So I challenge parents, apologize. If you did something, let your kids know, I love you. You're beautiful. They should be hearing it from us. You're handsome. You're going to be somebody. You're going to go somewhere. You talk about violence prevention and crime reduction. You validate that kid in the house, and you pour into their soul and their inner being, and you start seeing a transformation take place because daddy said, I love you. Mama said, I'm proud of you. Grandma said, you're going to be somebody. Grandfather said, you're going to make it.
Absolutely.
And you get all of that going on from the internal side. It causes a great image booster, and then we can kind of know who we are without acting out in ways for false street cred.
Straight up, that's good information, man. And it does, man. You plant that seed, and as you plant that seed, as a father or as a mother or whomever, as a grandfather, and you plant that seed, and somebody comes by and water that seed, a mom could be like, you can do it, honey. You did a good job. Your son, like, boy, you did a good job. Or your grandfather, whomever, continues to say that, and it begins to water that seed, and that seed begins to grow. You grow off of whatever's planted in you, man.
Yes, sir.
If you have bitterness planted in you, that's gonna grow.
Yes.
And it and as that begins to grow, man, it begins to it affects everybody.
Right. Right.
Your life definitely affects everybody, even in life and in death. I had a best friend of mine that passed away years ago, man, and just through some nonsense, and you never really understand how much it affected everybody around him. It wasn't just the fact that he passed away; it was the fact that he passed away. His mother grieved, his sister was hurt. His homeboys wanted, some action, whatever the case. And so that one life had a ripple effect. It affected a whole lot of people, and it affected people in a few different ways. It affected the mother, and the fact that that's my baby. It affected his homeboys, like, that was my homie. Now we got to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy because we see it over and over and over again. And then, like I said, going back to these stats, man, just the firearm and handgun at 76%, man, and that's heavy, And we look at the stats here as victim and suspect by age, race, and gender. I mean, you go down from Asian male victim 1, Asian female 0, black male 94%.
Our homicides.
Homicide.
Between the black male and female, they take up the bulk of it.
Bro, listen, man, but black female 18%. White male 20%, Hispanic male 10%, white female 9%. You look at that and it's tough to read, man.
It's painful
because you got to look at it. You were like, man, what's the deal?
When you look at it again, I strategically started in the house because that's the first institution.
Right.
But then when you leave out those houses and you see some of the, I'm going to say, the general patterns with certain zip codes got a higher crime rate, higher homicide rate, higher violence rate. Within those zip codes, many times they have challenging school environments. And then within those school environments, if you get someone, and shout out to all the educators and people working in the education field doing the work. However, I just feel we need to do more on the socio-emotional side and just start understanding that when they are coming to school and we can kind of shower them with some of those wraparound services more often and more frequently. The data doesn't lie in terms of if they're coming to school already in a lot of pain and we put them in a position where we're punishing. Instead of preventing or providing. And so if when we look at some of the racial equity dynamics, if someone is acting out, is it because they're struggling reading or is it because they're looking for some sort of validation? And typically what we do is we don't try to get to the root reason why they're acting out, just like I'm going to throw you in some sort of, I call it pre-prison syndrome, where you start putting kids in isolation, kicking them out, and not helping them at the core. So I just believe those environments, the church is not immune, and we have to start doing more, because many times people, places of faith, church, wherever they go to, you see the kids often and on the regular. So we got to start dealing with those issues in that particular environment as well. The school, the churches, but the homes, and then the neighborhoods as well. So, but I'll pause and just let you.
Sure, no, man. Listen, you're fine, brother. I was just kind of give you the floor there, but it is true, because when you look at intimidation, or you look at anger, and you talked about just somebody's trying to read, or a young man's trying to read, and he acts out in anger. Well, it's frustration. It's frustration, because you're trying to read, you don't understand that word, and then you think, and it's funny because not funny, but it's weird, because you're sitting there trying to read something and you can't really get it, and you're getting frustrated because you can't get it. But your pressure is like everybody's looking at you. You know what I'm saying? And you know how kids are pretty cruel, man. So you're thinking, oh man, David back there is probably saying stupid, or James is probably saying he can't read. Right. You know what I'm saying? So all that pressure is building up on you, and then you just throw the book like, man, I'm done. Yeah. And then by you saying, man, I'm done, the teacher's like, get out of here. You just threw a book across the room. And then, like you said, then you go to isolation. Then you go to ISS or OSS or whatever the case. And then that does nothing but put you in what do they call it? Solitary confinement.
Right. And in this virtual environment today, man, kids are being sent in virtual rooms where they cut up or kicked out, and it is very complex and multifaceted what needs to be done. But when you look at it at the core, there are some things that, if we address them early on, I often tell, reading to your kids, validating your kids from the parental standpoint, and making sure that they're in a position that the correlation between, if they're struggling reading, there's a correlation between dropouts, and then if you drop out, there's a correlation to the majority of our crimes are committed by high school dropouts, and there's a correlation between most of our high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, going back to the point with the home. And when you start connecting the dots from a strategic way, just like it challenged the men to stay involved, the women are doing a lot, just come along and help out, and then in some cases, the women got to welcome the help from the men. So when I say multifaceted and complex, it is.
You look at certain situations like that, and I was talking to some friends of mine years ago, and they were just talking about, the whole welfare system and things like that, that was actually, giving women, money to keep the brother out the house. Right. You say, hey, we'll give you, hey, you get on welfare, we keep you on welfare. But, when I come through and do my welfare sweep, I don't want to see any man's shoes. I don't want, if you're on that situation, then you're off welfare. Which, man, it create, and then if the brother, wants a relationship, but really can't have the relationship because maybe he's on papers. You know what I'm saying? So he wants a relationship with the woman, maybe it's the baby mama. He wants a relationship with her, but it's like, well, I know I really can't get a job because I'm on papers, but so I'm want to be with you and the kid, but if I come over and I forget my shirt, then you're kicked off of. You know what I'm saying? So it's this whole big old system, man, that's tied to, people say keeping a brother down, but it's this whole system that's tied to, not really help you progress.
Yeah. I mean, there are some systemic things rooted in that that cause certain zip codes to feel the heat, and there are just common denominators around the United States and even pockets around the world. When you start just stripping out the data and looking at it, it's very predictable when that home environment is not functioning at a healthy level, and you have individuals within that environment who are struggling academically, and then those individuals go to schools who are struggling to maintain accreditation or keep accreditation, and all of that pressure many times causes a lot of people to fall through the cracks, and then those individuals end up, even though, say, if they didn't graduate, they're in those neighborhoods, the blight and different things going on, terrorizing their neighborhoods, close proximity with the crime and violence within your neighborhoods. And those are just some of the things that when you look at it, you can just start rewinding and getting to the root, and then that's where the solutions will come in, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of time, you know, we hear the phrase, you know, black on black crime, black on black crime, black on, you know, we hear that phrase, and I really like that, man, because I think, you know, you kill where you're affected by the people who are around you. You kill who you're around. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I mean by that, if I'm African American and I'm in the inner city, I'm not going to a Hispanic community to go kill somebody. You know what I'm saying? Or if I'm you know, black, and I'm not going to the white neighborhoods to go shoot and kill nobody. You know, the neighborhood that you're in, you know, and that you're in close proximity to, that's who you're affected by. You know what I'm saying? The people that, I guess what I'm saying, the people that you're around are the ones that will be affected by your anger or your bitterness or whatever the case. So you don't have to go outside. So, you know, they have white on white crime. They have Hispanic on Hispanic crime. Crime is just crime. Yep. You know, wherever you are, crime is just crime. But when you have stats like this, you have a concentrated group of people that are, you know, basically just lumped together, man, with no resources.
Yeah, and that to your point with what we're talking about with this particular conversation, it causes a vicious cycle where the property values drop, people begin to move out of the communities, go to different schools, and then those communities that are struggling in terms of maintaining the property value, they typically are over policed, so those relationships get damaged, and it causes a lot of conflict on that particular level. And then we historically, going back to some of the systemic roots, we set it up to divide, and I'm going to have these group of people, typically people of color, or people without a lot of resources or money or finances, confined to a certain restricted area, and then they're just going at it in those areas. And then so when those individuals begin to move into other areas, it causes a situation where I don't want to live next to you, so I'm coming back to this area and let me jack up the prices. And we get that gentrification process going on, but it's rooted in a lot of the redlining, where certain areas were marked off, and these are hazardous areas. We're not going to invest in these areas. And that just causes that vicious cycle, generation after generation, until we break it at the core. And that's what I'm just thankful to be able to do with the help of a lot of great people.
Which is a blessing, man. For those who are just now tuning in, thank everybody that's tuning in and watching the show and everything. For those who are just tuned in, I'm talking with Mr. Anthony Butler. He is founder and CEO of VIP Movement Speakers. The VIP Movement Speakers. And what does that VIP stand for once again, brother?
Violence I Prevent.
Violence I Prevent.
Violence I Prevent.
Yeah. So your bio here, man, it says, in 2013, Anthony Butler stepped out on faith and started the VIP Violence I Prevent Movement, LLC. To date, VIP is a research-based and common-based company, collaborating with over 500 schools, organizations, businesses, colleges, universities, churches, places of faith, and more. Anthony is a published author. He's a keynote speaker, innovative presenter.
That's all good.
And and caring consultant. He provides motivational and inspirational, educational, and multi-generational services to resonate with all our audience. So it's not just brothers and sisters. You go multi-generational.
Absolutely.
Why is that important?
Because hurt is everywhere, and hope is everywhere, and I just do my best to get hope out of people, and then they do the work. When you give somebody something to strive for, when you give them a call and give them a purpose, when you speak life into their life, you know, they're more apt not to settle for being violent, because they got something else that they're chasing. And so I try to, in innovative ways, you know, help people identify their gifts, their purpose, and then to take those purposes and gifts and do something productive with it. So in a business standpoint is the term opportunity cost. There are times in our lives where we can't do both things at the same time. So if I can get them to grab on to hope, my goal is they'll let go of violence and crime, because their dreams are driving their decisions. And I just want them to recognize, put this dream in front of you, let this positive, productive dream drive your decisions. Dream of being someone in a great family, dream of having your own business, dream of actually standing up and speaking and finding your voice for the first time. And then those things are the things that cause a transformational process. And so that's what I do in an innovative way, do a lot of creative writing, helping individuals write, helping individuals get up and speak in front of people, because that is liberating and therapeutic. If you've been shy and quiet for whatever the reason, and you finally get up one day and you speak in front of a few people, and that few people turn into a classroom, next thing you know, it turned into an auditorium. And it's not just speaking, it's just the fact you finding out who you are. Confidence. And so you're going to get up and do it no matter what.
It's learning that confidence. Man, you and I talked earlier, and you just talked about you said, man, just write stuff down.
There you go.
I was like, man, my mom used to say that. He said, just write it down, brother, because I've been frustrated, man. And I was like, man. So he's like, just write it down. And you know, and that's funny, because it's really just something as simple as you seeing yourself write it down. Something just that simple, man. You don't think it really means a lot, but you know, I find myself, when I start writing stuff down, I write a whole page and don't even think about it. Maybe that's why I don't, because I know if I sit down and start writing, I'll write a whole lot. So man, we're gonna pause here real quick and take a break and jump back on the other side.
Yes, sir.
We got another break with you. This is Chris. I am with my man Anthony Butler here, and we're gonna come back on the other side. If you need to give us a phone call or give us a call at 816-599-6893, or drop us a line at KUAW.org on the web. So we'll see you guys just on the other side.
Hey everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the Zodiac days. Be sure and check us out. We're going to be here every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's old school with Scatter. Scatter's back. Check me out on the internet, KUAW.org. For all you for sale Central Manulite people, want you to remember that in the 60s and the 70s, we had some good music. If you want to hear some of the Temptations, some of Smokey Robinson, some of the Tim Free, things that you don't get every day, DJ Scatter remembers. He's going to have it for you.
Bank of Blue Valley is a proud sponsor of KUAW Radio. At Bank of Blue Valley, we believe that an understanding of financial values sets individuals up for a strong future. Whether you want to talk about checking and savings accounts, review lending alternatives, or discuss starting your own business, we have the right people to listen and advise. Visit us at bankbv.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to 98.5. This is KUAW, Kansas City, Missouri. Glad you're listening. Keep tuning to the new voice in Kansas City.
Hi, my name is Felania Johnson, and I'm a freshman at Purcell Academy of Fine and Performing Arts.
My name is Mayan Charity, and I'm a 7th grader at Lincoln College Preparatory.
STEM is a program about science, technology, engineering, and math. More girls our age should get more involved in the program because there's a shortage of black girls in STEM.
African American women make up just 2% of engineers. Roughly 1/3 of students of color express an interest in STEM. Most black women think that STEM is too challenging. We are sisters in STEM, and we are encouraging young black teens to join STEM.
If you're interested in more information, please contact Ina Montgomery at 816-866-6340.
Tycon Company, LLC, specializes in a wide range of construction services, which includes the removal and replacement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves in the quality of their service, but more importantly, with the quickness in which they provide those services. Their primary goal and objective is to achieve 100% customer satisfaction.
All right, listen here. We are back on the other side of the break. Thank y'all for tuning in. Everybody who's on the line, Thank you guys so much, man. Listen, drop a line on Facebook if you want to ask a question for Mr. Butler here. If you want to ask a question, or if you want to just chime in, talk about what is our part as a community to kind of help curve this stuff. And a lot of times people don't want to get involved because they're like, whether they're afraid because they think, man, they're going to, beat them up because they got a gun, or whether they, just don't want to get involved. They want to kind of stay to their family. Like, as long as it don't affect my family, y'all can leave that out. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times people don't want to get involved because, it's a lot, man. It's a lot to deal with, to get out there and really do what you do, do what you do. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot to do it. So how's the response been just from the the churches and the organizations? I talked about the kids, but how's the response been from the churches and some of the organizations that you really collaborated with, man, to make this thing possible?
Right. Currently, I just take it all in stride. It's a mixed bag. It just depends on what church, what school, what organization you're reaching out with. And I think some of the listeners can relate to this, because there are times, because you're dealing with an area that's not necessarily a glamour area, so to speak. When you say violence prevention, there are people who are in denial. Yeah. And so they're like, we don't have a violence problem. So, but you can kind of see what's going on. Yeah. And so just to be steadfast and have a great attitude, even in rejection, just using it as fuel to be able to, I want to serve my community. Right. And so I'll just say it's a mixed bag. I mean, just being 100, there are times where there are individuals coming into your neighborhood who are in positions of leadership and decisions, and they're driving into your neighborhood and they're keeping you from serving in that particular capacity. But God opens up doors and he provides a way. But that's one of the challenges, where if you're coming in 20, 30, 40 minutes away, and the school is around the corner, or 5 minutes from where I live, or whatever, and it's just like, hey, we don't need your services. And so I just use it all as fuel to be able to provide in a different outlet and opening up different doors to help individuals. So that's what I do. It's a mixed bag. To answer your question, it's a mixed bag. Some receive it, and I thank God for those. And then there are others, I just don't give up. I just go about it in another way. Yeah.
A lot of time, you work with people, who want to work with you. First off, my observation, I guess, but you also, I think sometimes it's timing. When you talk to some people, there's like, what, maybe they're not really feeling it at one particular moment, but then as you say, you just don't give up. At one moment they're just like, what, I really don't want to get involved. That's you guys' thing over there. You guys take care of that. But then next thing you know, some things happen. They're like, how can we help? Right. How can we help? It affects everybody, man. Black, white, brown, yellow, it affects everybody. To say, crime doesn't affect, you, it does. And we see on, on news, we say where there's a murder in say, predominantly white area, Overland Park, where we normally see somebody says, this wasn't supposed to happen here.
Yeah. I mean, that you get that often, and it just, oftentimes people are more so, and I say it, they ramp up their efforts after an incident occurred, after a tragedy. Let me see what we can do, instead of being preventative and thinking ahead of time. Hurting people are everywhere. Yeah. Sirens serenade the silence everywhere, signifying another day, another night of senseless violence everywhere. And so it's just like when we hear those sirens, that's not just an echoing or something that we become numb to. That is actually a cry out for help, in a poetic way. Every time I hear a siren, and I do my best to pray, just like, I don't know what's going on, but somebody's is in need of some sort of a help. If that siren is going off, something occurred for the most part. Absolutely. And so it's everywhere. Yeah. And just looking at our city and the dynamics when people move, and going back to those inequities within certain zip codes. As people begin to come into the city, move out of the city, you see crime rates start fluctuating in different areas based off what's going on. Hurting people are everywhere, so it impacts everyone. Yeah. Well, and then when you look at, you look at the stats, I think right now we're at
where are we at? About 170 or so, something like that. Right here it says homicides 153. Man, it even says homicides cleared 70.
Yeah.
That's half. A little less than half.
Yeah.
In homicides that are cleared. Homicides solved not by, homicides cleared and homicides solved 92, but homicides solved but not cleared 22. Man, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of unsolved homicides out there.
And people want to, many times you can be 10 to 20 feet away from a crime or a violent act and people don't report it. They don't want to be witnesses for a variety of reasons.
My thing, not your thing.
Yeah. Right. And those individuals ended up typically doing something else. And so back to that ownership piece. I mean, I can't expect the police to handle my stuff in my house.
Straight up.
We can't keep calling the police to come in and do this or do that. And my whole stance is we have to do more within our community to create stronger neighborhoods. If you see some criminal activity going on, will you continue just to be like turn a blind eye to it? Because the little things turn into bigger things when there are things going on with houses being broken in and you see broken out windows. Those are indicators and predictors of some other stuff that's going to be coming in that neighborhood. When there's trash around and we're not picking up trash in our neighborhoods and doing what we need to do, those are predictors of what's to come. If we continue to allow the little things to turn into something massive, that's when it turns into the non-fatal shooting, the homicides, and the more serious quote-unquote types of crimes and violence.
Because if you look at it at the end of the day, man, everybody want to feel safe.
Right.
Whether you live in the projects, where you live in the hood, whether you live in the suburbs, man, everybody want to feel safe. Nobody wants to feel like you're hearing gunshots, or whether you feel like if you go somewhere somebody start an argument, you got to start ducking. Nobody wants to feel that way, man.
Right.
People want to live. People. You hear people saying, "But I ain't afraid to die. I ain't afraid to die." Yeah, you're afraid to die. Yeah. You don't want to die, but what you're saying is, if I have to, I will. But that's not living, though, man. That's just existing.
Yeah.
And when you look at all these different stats, man, I was looking at this here. So 75% of prison inmates are high school dropouts.
Correct.
75%.
75%.
And that goes back to the fact that when you sit there and you don't want to read and you get frustrated and the teacher kicks you out of the classroom because they don't understand, then because a lot of times you see somebody saying, "Yeah, man, listen, I want to give a shout out to my coach, Coach Johnson, man, you really stuck it to me, man. You know what I'm saying? You really got in my butt when I needed to." But they get a shout out to Coach Johnson because he was that one teacher that was like, "Man, get over here, man. What you doing?" Yeah. That one person saw something in you that you hadn't even seen yourself.
That's right. And at the core, when we talk about some of the things that just people in general want, we want to be accepted.
Yeah.
In general, we want to belong, regardless of the age. We want to have a sense of control over our life. We want to have a certain level of independence. We want to be able to put our gifts and purposes and plans. When you go on social media and you just see full-grown people, a whole grown man or woman crying out for acceptance, crying out for validation. And many times when you get of that age and they're more petty and more deep-rooted than the youth that they criticize, because those are the types of, you got people going on hours talking about poor conflict resolution skills back and forth over something very minor.
Yeah.
And you're a full-grown man or woman.
Yeah.
And so it's like we all need a certain level of support and help. And this is earlier you said multi-generational.
Right.
That's why I go after every generation.
Yeah.
Boomers, X, Generation Z, millennials, we all got something going on.
We all do, man. And oftentimes, brother, it's all things are in common. It ain't. It's all rooted from something.
Yeah.
That's normally probably the nucleus of it is probably the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But also, I was gonna say something, but I just forgot it. But I'm gonna read this here. It said Gallup study shows that 7 out of 10 high school students want to start their own companies.
Yes.
Why don't they?
Oftentimes that seed is not watered.
Yeah.
They're innovative. I mean, we used to sell oatmeal pies out of the window in the projects, making $1 out of 15 cents all day, every day.
Yeah.
And then somebody watered the fact that you can be a great business person. You can be able to do this. And you lo and behold, you remember that stuff. Many of the schools don't even have an entrepreneurial program or class that's ongoing. If it is, it's a hit or miss elective. And so when you talk about the 6 greatest disparities when it comes to just particularly people of color, you got housing disparities, health disparities, education disparities, entrepreneurship disparities, criminal justice disparities as well. And I could have forgot one, but employment and underemployment. And so when you take all of those areas, underemployment, employment issues, education disparities, entrepreneurship disparities, housing, healthcare, and criminal justice, in different institutions, the schools, the churches, oftentimes we don't drive and deal with those areas from a solution standpoint. We got to pour into it.
Check this out, man. Our highest paying, well, I won't say highest paying, but we deem this to be our highest paying, most influential people are in entertainment.
Yeah.
You got the basketball players, the football players, the athletes that's in entertainment. Our musicians, they're in entertainment. Oftentimes, our actresses are in entertainment. You know, I mean, that takes a level of skill as far as, you know, brain power or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's not really focused. That's not really the highlight. We're looking at them as their abilities and what they do, not a fact of, you know, them sitting down and being a, you know, hey man, dude's a bad scientist.
Yeah.
Or he's a great architecture, you know what I'm saying, or whatever the case. So it's almost like our standard to live up to, I guess, is you know, something to entertain people. Not a great thinker or a philosopher. It's just somebody to make people feel good.
And to your point, that's why when you ask individuals what do they want to be, you know, they will go after those glamorous, the entertainers, the athletes, and I never down anyone's dream, but I said, but do you know the average athlete is retiring in their late 20s, early 30s, depending on the sport. And I said, you got a lot of life to live. So if you make it, when you make it, what are you going to do for the next 40, 50, 60, 70 years? And you try to get them to think about that because they're retiring in their 20s and 30s, depending on the sport.
And if you retire and you don't have the type of person that's handling your affairs, or if you're not financially savvy, you're retiring, you've made the company millions of dollars, but you're retired broke.
Right.
Right. Because I was looking at these rappers, man. These dudes on top of their game years ago, but now they're just doing little side gigs in little nightclubs. I'm like, dang, man, them dudes own it. But if you don't take care of this business, then somebody makes money off of you. You don't keep nothing.
It's at the root, you know, the financial literacy standpoint. When we talk about solutions, Chris, just the education level of the financial literacy side of it has to be a priority to be able to expose individuals to things outside of their neighborhood, things outside of their comfort zone, and expose them to some dreams that are inside of them and wake those dreams up. That will prevent violence. I mean, we need more people of color, Black, Hispanics, and any other race you want to throw in there to serve in our education system, to serve in our mental health areas, to serve in our law enforcement. We need more individuals to look at that as a way to be a part of the solution and also a violence prevention process. And we need better collaborations, keeping it 1 million with organizations who are doing the work. We talk a lot about Black on Black crime. A lot of time we got Black on Black organizations that are hating on each other and they're not even truly collaborating. So that's something else that needs to get better, is that collaborative effort.
Yeah. You know, you can only implement what you see. You know, and that goes way back to what we talked about earlier, man. You know, the nucleus, going back to the family. You know, when a young man doesn't get the acceptance or nurture or whatever the case that he would get in the home, that feeling still in him. He still wants that acceptance, or he or she still wants that acceptance. So that void's there. So if they don't get that void filled by mom or dad or whoever the case, then they, you know, go get the void filled by their homeboys or their homegirls. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, it's a bad Yeah, we selling dope. Yeah, we doing this. Yeah, we doing that. But that's my homie, man. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? They're like, hey, man, we did this, and it's that feeling of acceptance.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal, and hope.
We got to.
Hope. It's a false sense of hope and acceptance, but yet, you know, they do.
It's to the core. If you were to say one call to action that individuals can do, is to look around whatever their bloodline within their family and strategically start implementing hope and validation into their inner circle. Yeah. If there's one thing we all can do, regardless of the age, is remind our kids who they are, remind our spouses who they are, whoever we're in a relationship with, those that see us on the regular, we have to start confirming and validating who we are to them and allowing it to be reciprocal. Yeah. And then that will cause a certain level of, you know what? Yeah, I'm better than this. Yeah, I'm better than this.
And you know what? When you said that, man, it made me think about, you know, say you're a bucket of water, man. You got these things floating around in you, so you can build that up full of negativity, and that'll just build up and fester. So, but if you take some fresh water, whatever case, and begin to pour that in there, whatever's bad that's in there eventually will come out. Right. And by it coming out, then the freshness that you pour in there stays in there. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So all the negativity that's in there, it goes out. But what you've put in them, it feels good, but it's something that you put in there. But also, man, we got a few minutes in the show. Man, you got a few other things that you do. I'll talk about your book a little bit real quick.
Yes, I enjoy writing. I'm writing multiple books, and the one that speaks on this topic, root reasons for violence, knowing why it happens, learning how to stop it. Website, I didn't even say it earlier, is violenceiprevent.com. So violenceiprevent.com. If you're interested in that book, I laid down, I believe it's 18 underlying reasons for violence, and I lace it with poetry, and also provide some great strategies. I just like using creative writing, but dealing with, at the core, that mismanaged hurt and pain kind of drives the book. And out of that mismanaged hurt and pain, you'll find individuals engaging in domestic violence, gang violence, community violence. It's just that mismanaged hurt and pain that we all feel.
Yeah. That stuff that's down in there that's got to get poured out. Yeah. You know, and it only gets poured out by love, man. Yeah. Listen, I got a partner, man. He tell me he love me almost every time we hang up the phone. Brother, I love you, man. I said, all right, I love you too, man. But I understand what he's saying, though. Yeah. I understand what he's saying, man. That, you know, it's all right, bro, I love you, man. I said, all right, man, I love you too. And I ain't never really had a brother tell me I love you like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, it's cool because it's like, you know, it's like, man, he's like, man, I love you, dog. And I want to, and my thing is, I love you. I want to see the best for you. I want to see you do well. You know what I'm saying? So just saying those three words to me means I want to see you make it. I want to see you do well. I believe in you. You know what I'm saying? So that's very, very important, man. I'm 42 years. I almost gave myself another year, man.
Rounding up. I see that.
and my birthday was just last week.
Happy belated birthday, man.
I appreciate it, brother. But yeah, man. So, you know, just saying those words to you know, even your homeboy, man, or your homegirls for the ladies, or your you know, your wife and your kids, man, or your significant other. Just saying I love you, man, makes a big difference. Makes somebody feel better. Changes your whole outlook.
And that's the, you know, that unconditional love. You can't do anything to stop me from loving you. Yeah. And many times we place conditions on it. Yeah. And so when somebody disappoints us, then it's just like, I'm gonna pull the love back. Yeah. And so I just believe in that, and just preventing violence at the core with some practical actions. We gotta start in our hearts, our individual hearts, see what's going on with us, and then translate that and take it to our homes. Yeah. And then outside of our homes, we start going into the community, the schools, the society, wherever you go to church at, or place of faith, where we just need to kind of start individually and then just go from there. And we get some great strategies with it, man. I love data. I love research. I love implementing best practices and all of that stuff. But I try to make it as practical as possible when I'm explaining to people. And then I'll hit them with the numbers and the figures later.
Yeah. You know what? What you just said is what I forgot a few minutes ago, what you talked about. You know, it starts as an individual, and whatever starts as an individual, then it affects your home. Because you can affect the temperature of your home. You can go in there being grumpy, and everybody's affected by your grumpiness.
Yeah.
So starting with you, then it affects your family, then it affects your neighborhood, then it affects your community, then it affects your state, then it affects your world. But that one thing starts with you as a person. Yeah. So we got about a minute or so in the program. I want you to go ahead and just spit one of your poetry bars.
You got one. I'll do it. The violence thing is just like sirens solemnly serenade the silence, signifying another day, another night of senseless violence. We keep playing the same sad songs. Boom, boom, boomerangs. Reckless retaliations is just plain wrong. Plenty of people are propelled by pain-felt action. It's just insane. We keep looking for different results. When will we start doing different things? And so on this particular spot, Chris, I want to say we're going to start doing different things to get different results, because the sirens will no longer serenade our silence.
Indeed.
We're going to do different things.
Facts. There it is. Right on, man. Listen here. That was my man, Mr. Anthony L. Butler. Like I said, he is definitely with Violence I Prevent VIP movement. Reach out to him, man, and just, help.
Yes, sir.
Each one teach, each one reach one. So let's hear this be another episode of Street Therapy KC. This is Chris, my man Anthony. Hey, listen, man, God bless y'all. Y'all be safe and take care of each other, man. We'll see y'all next week. The Lord willing. Take care. Peace.
Hey, everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the